Imagine you're talking to somebody in their 60s and you say to them, gosh, it has been so difficult to buy a house lately because interest rates have just skyrocketed. And then they say, well, back in the 80s, sorry to everybody in your 60s for that. They say back in the 80s, interest rates were at 18%, and so this is nothing. And then you say, well, yeah, Grandpa, but your house costs less than my car. And then they say, well, yeah, but I was making 25 cents an hour. I don't know if that's true. But we're gonna do the math and figure out if you spent a higher percentage of your income on housing back in the 80s or today. So let's dive in. All right, here we go. Bring it in on over, whatever that means. Okay, so we're gonna look at 3 years here. So we're gonna start with 1981. I'm pulling most of this data from Fred. Fred is an incredible economic data resource. If you're looking for one, it has pretty much anything that you want to look at. So let's start at home price. So average home price in 1981. Let's head over to median sales price of houses. Whoop. And we're going to look at 1981. So we're looking at, somewhere between $66,000 and $69,000. So we'll put 68.9. Interest rate back in 1981. Let's head over to this. This is the 30-year fixed mortgage. 1981, pretty much the peak. If you were to buy at the literal highest in history, you'd be looking at a 18.39% interest rate for your mortgage. So we'll plug that in there. Monthly payment, I won't calculate this, but if you go to mortgagecalculator.org, you plug everything in. Your monthly payment with an 18% interest rate on a $68,000 house is $1,200 a month. The average annual household income, let's double check that. So median family income in the United States back in 1981, $22,388. So then we want to take a look at how much you're spending on housing as a percentage of your total annual income. So that means taking 1,200 divided by 22,000 equals, drum roll, 64.71%. So that means if you were to buy a house in 1981 and had the average salary, you would be spending 64% of your income on housing. That's insane. So let's see what it is today. Okay, so we're gonna do the same math. I'm not gonna go through and pull everything from Fred. You can just trust that I've already done that. So the average home price in 2022 is $428,000. The average interest rate right now is about 6%. Monthly payment, if you do 6% on a $428,000 house, you're looking at $2,600 a month. The average income for 2022 isn't quite released yet, but it's looking from somewhere between $75,000 and $85,000 per household. So let's split the difference and call it 80 grand. So if we do the same calculation as before and take 2,600 divided by 80,000, we get a total of 39.63%. So today, the average person is spending about 40% of their income on housing. So if we were to compare that with the scenario before, the person in their 60s who bought a house in 1981 is right. It was harder to buy a home back in 1981 than it was today. But 1981 was literally the pinnacle, the highest point that you could have possibly timed getting a mortgage interest rate. So that is not the norm. So let's take a more average rate and maybe look at the year 2000. So in 2000, let's see, the interest rate was, it looks like maybe 8.8 and change. So let's go ahead and do the same thing. I've already done this as well, so we'll just fill them in. Average home price in 2000 was $166,000. The interest rate, based on what we just looked at, call it 8.54%, which brings a monthly payment of $1,417. The average annual income per household of somebody in 2000 was $50,000, which means that if you bought a house in the year 2000, you would have been spending roughly 33.52% of your income on a house. So the difference between 2000, which let's say is an average, and 2022, we're just slightly above average. You're just slightly spending a little bit more on housing than you have, before. Whereas in 1981, gosh, you were spending just a ridiculous amount. So I hope that kind of helps put things into perspective. With house price increases and mortgage rates going up, it just seems more and more like housing is becoming unaffordable. But the reality is we're only just slightly above average. It's just slightly more expensive than it normally is. If your average household income is at $80,000. And that's where it gets tricky, right? Because a lot of people don't make $80,000 a year. And so, if we were to redo this calculation, let's jump back over. And just for fun, let's do, a different calculation. And let's say that you're making $45,000 a year and you want to buy a $428,000 house. That would be costing you 70.45% of your income. So clearly, if you make $45,000 a year, you should not be looking to buy a $428,000 house, but hopefully your lender is telling you that so you don't get into that position yourself. So hopefully that was interesting. Hopefully it added some value and maybe gave you a little bit of comfort. Maybe that last one didn't. But overall, with a median income, trying to purchase a median priced house, we're just slightly more expensive than usual. And with the way that the economy and the housing market is starting to head, I think that's going to come down even below average here in the next, probably even 6 months. So if you're looking to buy a house soon, you timed it just near perfect because you're going to get some sweet deals on some houses coming up here real soon. But thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time.